This is Reah, and this is Just the Who of Us, where we talk about a range of topics, including life events, current events, spirituality, entertainment, family relationships, as well as answering listener questions and more.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me back on your show. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course, of course. I really enjoyed our conversation last time, and I'm looking forward to kind of catching up with you.
Sounds good.
Um, so for those of you who are not familiar, um, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, just to kind of recap from last time.
Sure. My name is Laura with Higher Minds, Yoga and Mindfulness, and I started the company about 8 years ago after being an elementary school teacher for about 20 years. I started to incorporate yoga and mindfulness practices in my classroom and saw such a profound effect that I thought, all kids need this. So I
Yeah.
started my own curriculum and I bring it into schools. And I also meet with children one-on-one in my youth mindset mentorship program to help children regulate emotions, become more resilient and confident, and really just connect to their inner peace. And I work with families as well to incorporate it in their homes. Recently, I've been posting weekly mindful minutes on my YouTube channel. So families can practice these tools, in their own home so they can have a bit more calm and peaceful environment, which we all need during these times.
Yes, yes. So I think the last time we talked, you were doing mostly virtual, I think. Um, and that was kind of like after effects of COVID kind of thing, just, adjusting to people's availability and being able to reach a broader audience, which is one thing that I love about having virtual options. I get to talk to people like you who I might not be able to get to physically. And so I wanted to kind of mention that too. It's one of the things that are you still doing virtual?
Correct. I do both in person locally. I'm in southern New Jersey, and I also do a lot on Zoom, which is great. So I can reach like you
Yes.
for a broader audience. And with the YouTube channel as well, I'm able to reach a broader audience, which is the mission to reach as many families as possible.
Right. Yeah, it's one of the things that kind of, well, two things, but it's one of the things that stood out to me when we had our initial conversation was that there were virtual options and virtual options just beyond, okay, you can watch me do these things, like virtual options in regards to actually one-on-one or group discussions and presentations and things that you're individually connecting with people. Obviously, having platforms like YouTube is great, but I really liked the fact that you engaged with people virtually directly as well, because I feel like for services like this, for children in particular, outside of talk therapy, I feel like we're kind of limited with options, right? So
100%.
yeah, it's one thing that I really admired when we had our first
Exactly. That's
conversation.
how this kind of program came about, the mentorship. I'm on Psychology Today with a lot of other great therapists and professionals offering this mentorship. And the
Hmm.
thing that really stands me out, rather than the traditional talk therapy, which is incorporated in the sessions, is really giving them the tools to heal on their own and also giving the family the tools. So it's not this isolated, we just meet, once a week for 45 minutes and that's going to cure everything kind of thing. It's after each session, I email the parents, the teachers, if they would like as well, a whole summary of what we went over and tools and resources they can use in the classroom or at home. And that's how the YouTube channel came about, because I would say this week we did dragonfly breath, but the parents are like, what is that? Or the kids will say, oh, like, what did you do in your session today? And guess what the kids always say? Nothing, right? Oh, we did
Oh, of
nothing.
course. Of course. Of course.
So I thought, oh, well, if I can upload some videos so the parents can see this is what it looks like. And it only takes a minute, right? Mindful
Right.
minute, that it is something that you can
Yeah.
incorporate into your daily routine, whether it's in the morning or bedtime. We already have these routines in place. So just kind of, little by little, whether it's just a breath break or a positive affirmation, then over time, it grows and develops. And over time is when we see the change from reaction to a response.
Right. Right. And I'm taking notes. But one thing I like too is the simplicity. So you mentioned taking like a minute at bedtime. Like 1 minute it can make a really big difference on how we both, and these are all things that you teach that we can incorporate with ourselves as parents, which I really like to. I heard, I don't know, maybe like a year or so ago, someone was talking about it was a parenting class that I took, and she mentioned taking the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes of your day with your child to kind of like wind down, take 3 minutes to be um, directly
Present.
involved with, yeah, be, thank you. I couldn't find it. To be present to start your day and to end your day. And, it really is, it only takes that little bit of time. When we teach children to kind of regulate themselves, or teenagers, we teach them to breathe for a minute, or to do, the box breathing, these different things that kind of regulate our bodies, and they take so little time. Um, Certain mantras for an adult, my mantra has been lately, I can only control what I can control, right? And like for kids, it seems more difficult than that, than just, okay, well, if I just teach them to say this, that's not gonna, like you said, like it's not gonna fix everything in the moment. It is more kind of a long-term approach that requires consistency, but it can easily be started with that tiny little moment, the blip in the day, to kind
Yeah.
of reground or start our day grounded with a simple phrase or a simple practice.
Absolutely. It's all about developing that mindset. So then throughout the day, you're more aware. That's what mindfulness means, right? Being that self-awareness, and sometimes just taking that pause, that moment,
Yeah.
and really kind of practicing those skills. And it is really that simple. It's like, wait, it's
Yeah.
really that simple. Yes, when you regulate your breath, then you're able to regulate your emotions, and your physiology, your heart rate, your breath is all connected. So teaching them that awareness so they can realize, oh yeah, when I slow down my breath, my heart rate starts to slow down. And
Yeah.
teaching them to feel that in their body, become aware what we focus on, teaching them how to focus too. A lot of times we'll say to a kid, focus. Right? What is that?
Guilty.
What does
Guilty.
that mean? What does that look like? So giving examples and a lot of role playing I do, like this is what not focusing looks like, being distracted, and this is what it does look like, right? This is what
I
a
love
reaction
that.
looks like, and this is what a response looks like. And I also use a lot of like stuffies and play, like here's Medi the Teddy. I always use him in all my classes. And it, when you put it on, the stuffed animal or a toy, then the child feels less self-conscious, and it also makes it super fun. So it's not about what just happened on the playground. Say if they, hit a friend and you're trying to teach them to use kind words or take a break, reenacting it takes
Yeah.
them away from it so they can see it as an outsider, and then they're less feel less like shameful or embarrassed sometimes, or they don't want to talk about it if it's
Yeah.
about them. They think perhaps, oh, I did something wrong. So when you put it with the toys or stuffed animals, it's a great idea to do at home with their favorite toys.
I love that. I love that so much. And I appreciate you sharing that because it kind of gives us a little visual glimpse into some of the work that you do. Um, I really like that. I think sometimes we, as adults, we can forget that children are still learning and they're learning things that we already quote unquote know, right? Like I find myself a lot of times in conversation with my youngest to remind myself, like, okay, he hasn't experienced this yet. He hasn't matured from this yet. So I have to have a conversation with him, educating him, because maybe what I'm teaching him is something I've already learned, but he hasn't. I think it's easy to kind of forget that they are at this vulnerable state and we are past it. So we're just kind of, instead of kind of talking at them like we look, I'm through this, I've already done it. It's more beneficial to help guide them through it and not talk at them about it, if that makes sense. And I think
100%. That's
that,
why I said get on the floor with with the teddy bears and play with them.
yeah,
Use that kind of play therapy model with, reenacting. So you're still using it to teach them the lessons.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. Um, I wanted to also talk about the mindset mentorships, the 6-week program that you offer. First, I want to talk about kind of how that came about. With the work that you already do, the work that you've been doing, what kind of came about to say, you know what, let me offer this as well. This would be beneficial. It's on top of what I already do and not just kind of staying stagnant. We have, okay, well, this is what I offer, this is what I do, and that's just that. I love when people kind of are innovative and bring new things. It keeps everything fresh. It keeps it kind of prevents you from becoming stagnant. What kind of brought that about, that program?
Absolutely. Because my mission really is to, again, give the tools to the children and their families for them to self-regulate.
Right,
So in the 6-week time frame, once I do an intake and get to know the child, get to know the families, I design it around their specific needs. So rather than like traditional therapy, which could be every week for like an extended period of
right.
time. It could be months and months. And sometimes that's really intimidating,
Yes.
like, oh no, this is like, all right, let's see how this program is tailored. And if they do need more sessions after, I also work longer with some children. It just really depends. But I think initially it's really good to start because with the 6 weeks is a really good time to also kind of
Yeah,
like tweak the curriculum and see the growth. And
right,
then from
right,
there, they can decide, oh, you know what? We just need to meet once a month or every other week, or I'll call when I feel like it's appropriate that my child needs to meet with you again. So it's not so daunting, like, is this going to be for a year, 2 years? Like, how long? It's like, all right, let's make it simple, six
right.
weeks and go from there. And I think that's a great time to try it as well.
Yeah, I think that when you look at traditional therapy, traditional talk therapy, as an adult, I know it can be intimidating to kind of, for one, not know, okay, well, how long is this going to take me? But realistically, when it comes to growth, there isn't always a specific time frame. It depends on the person. It depends on the person's environment. It depends on your history, your traumas, your abilities, your focus, your willingness to grow. There's a lot involved, and children are much more tunnel visioned than we are as adults when it comes to tasks and time and things like that. So I think that's a really great approach, kind of, okay, this is our time frame. However, if you need a little more time, I'm willing, we can work around that too. Let's see how this goes. And it's a great way to kind of structure and focus without the kind of question like, when is this
Right, right.
gonna,
And it's
like,
overwhelming, like you said, and daunting is like, not knowing kind of
yeah,
the end. like you're saying. And that way, we get after the
Right.
6 weeks, we do like we sit and reassess and we look back and look at the growth and see if we do need more growth and do you need support in that growth? Maybe they
Right.
still need me, maybe they don't, right? Like it's up to
Right.
them to kind of also self-reflect. Like let's take a pause and decide after that time frame. Let's take a break and see like do we need more or do we need assistance or are we good now? Do we have enough tools in our toolbox, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, how do you incorporate yoga, say virtually, and keep kids focused? Because I want to know for myself. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just did a class over at our local Boys and Girls Club, and afterward, the lady said to me, "That was more like a performance." I said, "Well, yeah, because I have to keep their attention for a half hour, 45 minutes, however long." So
right.
I use a ton of music, literature, lots of movement, and like back and forth, like repeat this affirmation. So it's interactive,
Okay.
tons of games, activities. We do mindful crafts. Here, I'll show like I have like a glitter jar we make in some of the sessions, and then they swirl it around and watch it go down. A rain stick like we've made before. It's super simple.
Oh,
I have
that's
these
so cool.
yeah, and I have these on my YouTube channel so you can make them with your kids at home. So then they're
Perfect.
moving. Some kids love art and all that. So I really try to make it to get the whatever their, interest is as well. It's tailored to so they are able to stay focused. And it's just constantly moving. At the end, I put like a star machine up for our shavasana, our relaxation, and have different, like I said, different activities throughout. It's constantly going, to keep their
Right. I love the way, excuse me, that and I noticed this last time too, but I love the way like when we talk about certain things, you just kind of like light up and you're like, oh my God, let me show you this. Because
Yeah.
it shows that you're like really involved and interested and like this is something that I'm passionate about. It's not, something I just do because I know how to do it. I
Oh,
think
100%. I
when
mean, I
you're
left
working,
a career, I was having a pension and had benefits as a public school teacher
yeah,
and then everyone's like, "Oh, that's crazy to start a business you don't know." And it's like every month I don't you don't really know, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? But it's all worth it because it's like, like you said, a passion, your purpose is just it overrides anything else, any other
yeah,
fear.
yeah. I 100%. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit here because you mentioned taking this business and leaving this kind of comfortable career to start this journey. And I want to take a minute to kind of talk to parents on this end about because I've gone through the same thing. It can be difficult to say, okay, I have this paycheck every month and I have this kind of job security that now as a parent, I want more flexibility. I want more availability. I want to be available more for my children. I want to be available more in their lives and more present. And so I want to start a business of my own, a program of my own to allow myself to do that. But at the same time, have to understand and conceptualize that things aren't going to be so like structured and dependable in a sense. Let's talk a little bit about that, like that kind of change and how we as parents or as mentors, even or parental figures, educators, teachers, leaders, how we can some uh
Go into that space
yeah, like
of
some transitional tips
oh, absolutely.
and
Hmm.
incorporating what your focus on mindfulness and things like that.
When I first started, it was simple as when I was a school teacher in the classroom, incorporating it in the class, and then offering an after school club, right? So it was like that simple, right? And then
Right.
once you, well, and then, okay, maybe on the weekends I'll offer. And once you start getting those followers and that support and start networking and are really open to it, doors open, right? People, the right
Right.
people, the right places, the right opportunities with the correct mindset, right? Once you put it out there, little by little, like I'm right now is nowhere where I was 8 years ago, nor could I think this is where I would be. I didn't think I would be doing mentorships or YouTube channel. It's just that it evolves and grows. And I find that when we're starting, sometimes we're comparing ourselves to these companies or corporations or people that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. And it's like, wait, where did they start? Like research,
Right.
look at their YouTube videos from 10 years ago. Do you see what
Right.
I mean? To kind of get you in that the perception, because otherwise it can be intimidating when we're in that kind of like compare mindset. We do
100%.
find people to look up to. That's another thing though. Like when I was starting the YouTube channel, I'm like, okay, what other kids yoga channels are out there? So I have someone to look up to and to inspire to, and then maybe I can pick their brains. Oh, what are they doing? Let me then do one little small step, whether that is if you want to be a content creator. Okay, every week on Wednesday, I'm going to post one video, like super, super simple, while maybe still keeping whatever job or whatever stability you have. And then it's like more of a gradual, then I'm just going to quit everything today and tomorrow start my business, right? Kind of organically growing the following. And then you can kind of step away, would be my
Right.
advice.
I love it. I didn't do it that way. So I could have used this conversation about 4 years ago. But it's one thing that I noticed starting a business, quitting my job and starting a business while, my husband works full time and he was able to provide a little bit more of cushion to do that. However, it's one thing I struggled with really the first 3 years was I'm not like just zooming into where I want to be in 10 years. You know what I mean? Like it was hard to kind of grasp that the growth isn't instant. And I think for one that's really good advice because you're kind of guiding people into, okay, don't jump all in, just keep some of your stability, which is really smart to do. Not always what we think initially because we're kind of thinking with our ambitious mind, but just like kids, often do, we as parents or educators or leaders a lot of times do it ourselves when we're like, okay, well, I want to do this thing and I want it to be successful. So here I go. I think it's a really good idea. Keep some of your stability and gradually work. One thing I had to understand was that the gradual factor, like, you know,
Me too. The patience
growth,
around it.
the patience, that growth takes time. And I hear a lot in regards to business that the first 5 years are really like learning years, that most people aren't successful until they're 5 to even 10 years sometimes. And most people aren't going to be Google or, whatever. Like it's possible, but I think sometimes we set these so fast-paced goals for ourselves and we try to compare to the wrong people. And that's where, like you said, looking up to the right people, paying attention to what other people are doing, mm, trial and error, because some people you're going to look up to and they're not going to be going where you want to be going, and that's okay. It's just one of those things that you kind of learn as you go. But it is important that we're looking for the qualities we want to have in our business as leaders in the people that we're following as well.
100%. And even perhaps finding a mentor that would be happy to guide you along the path would be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
100%. And also just trying it out. Like I said, when I was teaching, I was, let me offer an after school yoga.
Yeah.
then I like it, because sometimes you might think like, oh, that would be great. I would love to teach after kids yoga. All right, quit my job, start the company. And then after you do it for like a few weeks, you're like, wait, maybe I,
I
I
didn't
know this
think this
is really
quite through.
good. Yeah, who's swinging from the chandelier now? But I'm like, so like, it's good to like give it a trial
Right.
period with your services, especially. We have these ideas like, oh, this service would be cool, this service would be good. Try it and see and get the feedback and notice how you feel after. Do you feel that
Yeah,
resonative? Do you feel like that is something you want to continue before you put it out there?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because like when I started my business, when I started this business, I started as, okay, I'm gonna form a psychology practice. I was obtaining my master's in psychology, and I said, okay, I'm gonna start my own practice. But first, I'm gonna start it as a coaching business. And so I started that about 4 years, almost 5 years ago now. And I primarily use it now for book writing, uh, podcasting, and things like that, rather than, and I decided not to go with the psychology practice because I feel like I could do more and accomplish more with what I already have. And so, I had this big goal because it sounded great, and then it changed, and it'll probably change again. And that's okay. That's, having that kind of gradual consistency and changing your mind on certain things. We set goals sometimes that they're accomplishable, but there's steps that are required to get there, you know. And I think it's important to not lose sight of that goal that you have, but sometimes we have to tweak it to make it more accomplishable.
I agree, especially with the psychology. That's my background as well. And I've considered, like you, going to the same path of becoming a therapist. And then after, like, with all my experience and with children and working in schools, having a master's and this really background with psychology and specializing with children, I thought, why do I need it? Is because I think society wants to see
Yes.
those after my name and now I'm more valid. It doesn't necessarily make my offerings better or more valid, but we're kind of trained in the Western world to
Yes.
bow down to certain degrees and put them on a pedestal,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, because I've kind of felt the same way too. I was like, okay, even having even with my master's in psychology, I felt like, okay, if I go for my PhD, like then people will really like want to work with me. They'll want they'll want to get obtain services from me because I have. And now I'm like, well, I went for another, so I have two masters, which even to me is kind of like sometimes I'm like, okay, that's kind of silly. You could, but at the same time, I wanted the education in these two different places, two portions of the mental health field. I wanted to be thoroughly educated in both. And I realized over time, like you said, it doesn't really matter what letters are after my name. My experience, my life experience, my work, those are things that are way more valid and way more important. And I think I like the fact that you brought up too, because there's a lot of people who might listen to this episode and be feeling kind of pressured. I need certain things to be successful. I need this degree. I need this, whatever the case may be to be successful. And that's not necessarily true. Um, oh, it's not necessarily true, Um,
And my advice would be like you just got started. You said you wanted to coach and you just went and did it. It didn't stop you from getting
right,
started,
right,
right?
right. Yeah, yeah,
I had a friend that was offered to teach a Kundalini yoga class, and he was like, "Well, I need to first get the training." No, but do you? You're already doing it. Just, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do it." Right?
right. Yeah. It helped,
Just let it go.
I got a coaching certification, paid to do the certification through the college. And I look on and I'm like, there are so many coaches who like don't have this and they're successful coaches because they're good at what they do. And it is one instance where, you kind of fall for the, not to say that formal education isn't beneficial, because obviously it's extremely beneficial. Like outside of the physical certifications that I have, that knowledge that I obtained and that experience was way more impactful in my life than titles and papers and whatever. So not at all to say that formal education isn't beneficial. It 100% is. But if you're someone who can't afford the education or whatever the case may be, you don't feel like you have to spend 4 years in school. You're already thriving at this particular thing. Absolutely go for it.
100%. And you
Don't
learn
let that hold
most by doing, right?
you.
That's
Right.
when you learn. When I went through my master's in teaching, I learned the most in the last semester of my student teaching. Why? Because I was actually in
Yep.
the classroom teaching. The
Yep.
rest was just philosophy and information, which
Yep.
is the first step. And now with our technology, you can be informed and you can study. You can get
Yeah.
that basic information on your own,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
And then learn by doing, by experience. And most clients come to anyone by word of mouth anyway, because they had a really
Right.
great coaching session with you or a great mentor said, oh, recommend this to a friend. And that's usually how it works.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I just completely lost my train of thought. There was something that you said a minute ago that made me think of something, and now I've completely forgot it. So, fun ADHD component, but um, well, is there anything before we wrap up? Is there anything that you would like to talk about or point out, or any information that you want to give our viewers? Um, of course, I'm going to put your how you can reach Laura in the description here so you guys can find her website, her YouTube. Oh, that's what it was, YouTube. So, in light of talking about how you can obtain education all over the place, um, my husband used to point out to me all the time, and the kids, hey, if you want to learn how to do anything, there's a YouTube instructional video on anything. Doesn't matter what it is, you can learn so much. It's obviously, as we know as adults, that verification is important. Making sure that you're using valid resources is very important. But you really can find education on anything there is out there. I took a real estate course. I took real estate courses, and I probably obtained a lot more information from watching a teacher on YouTube teach about it than I did sitting there reading the material myself. Um, but also, always make sure that your sources are valid and reputable. But it really is YouTube, Reddit. There's plenty of things that you can learn out there on the internet if you use it correctly.
Like any tool, right? Like with
Yeah,
AI as well. I've been using that a lot, creating like individualized posters for the children. So they have
yeah,
visual aids, like we do power stop and satanama and different EFT tapping with their own personalized affirmations for each one. And it's a cute little like cartoon
nice.
of them. So there's so much
So cool.
that can be done. But
Yeah,
absolutely, if people are interested, my YouTube channel is Higher Minds Yoga, and my website is thehigherminds.com, where you can find more information about my mindset mentorship program. I really appreciate you having me today, Reah. Thank you so much.
absolutely. Absolutely. I always love having you here, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you in the future. And yeah, just thank you. Thank you for all your information.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
See ya.
Yeah.
Check us out on YouTube at Reah Higgs, ReahHagues. You can also keep up with us on Instagram at Just the Who Podcast.